So let's begin with our next session by Chennai chapter. It's coaching for Agile Transformation Journey by Balaji T. I would like to thank our founding sponsor Innovation Roots, who are leading consulting and training service provider, helping organizations to achieve business agility and beyond. It is one of the leaders and pioneers of niche publishing service and well known for content collaboration with global thought leaders, authors, and creators. For more information about Innovation Roots, I request you to visit our website www.innovationroots.com. And as mentioned, do's and don'ts, please use the high quality speakers and headphones. Uh, Keep yourself muted and video disabled, or else it will cause a disturbance. And please ask a question through chat box. I keep it short because we are in a continuation session. Thanks for your cooperation. And now I'll hand over to Namrata, who is going to facilitate this particular Chennai chapter session. Over to you, Namrata.
Thank you, Prashant. Hi, everyone. Good evening, and welcome from Chennai chapter. So, I'm a volunteer with the Chennai chapter. My name's Namrata. And The session for today is coaching for Agile Transformation Journey. And I would like to welcome Mr. Balaji for the session. He has about 19 plus years of experience in IT industry and 12 plus years in Agile. So I think we're all excited to hear from you, sir. Over to you.
Yeah, okay, gladly. So this is just a quick. This particular slide is just a quick introduction about about myself, like in terms of the education details and the other role what I play. So currently, I am actually playing the role of an executive agile coach, coaching the leadership team, like in terms of formulating the digital transformation, agile transformation, and also business transformation strategies. In the past, I have played multiple roles, which has been mentioned in the slide.
Yes.
Yes, this is a slide I was just talking about in terms of introduction about myself and the current role what I play in my organization. What are all the roles I have played in the past in like in terms of the diversification of multiple roles like a project manager, program manager, scrum master, RTE, team level agile coach, enterprise layer agile coach, and a change agent. Also been involved in coaching the leadership team in terms of building a client centric business outcomes and how to run the show fundamentally. So let us now get into the agenda of this particular session, which is called Coaching for Agile Transformation Journey. So, like we know, right, like much of the companies are actually doing an agile transformation, like in terms of the Scrum framework or Kanban or Safe or Bless or whatever be the framework. Now the challenge in the industry, or rather the challenge with much of the companies is if you go to them and then ask them after 15 months or 18 months, okay, what are all the business outcomes that you obtain as part of this particular agile transformation trajectory, many of the companies are still actually struggling to actually mention it. It could be an agile outcome or actually it could be a business outcome. So in the forthcoming slides, I have tried to formulate my thoughts like in that particular sequence. This is a slide on the agenda wherein I'm going to talk about the customized agile framework, how to balance between three pillars called system of delivery, system of transformation, and the system of continuous improvement. And one more important point is a real agile transformation journey is fundamentally independent of the framework used, because like in much of the cases framework is like a mirror. It is going to show the problem. Framework by itself is not going to come and fix the problem, right? Just by using Scrum, Kanban, Safe, Spotify, Less, Dad, Nexus, all these frameworks, don't expect the problem will be solved by no the framework. The problem will be solved by the framework itself, because people need to collaborate to solve the problem. And I think there's an echo. Okay. People need to collaborate to solve the problem, and framework is going to give the relevant touch points to do it. And also coaches need coaching if you are actually embarking on the journey of a continuous improvement. So that is how I have formulated this particular slide. And here I'm going to talk about, okay, Okay, like if I need to touch the business outcome, right? The general one of the way to touch the business outcome is you start with your agile practices, like your Scrum or Kanban practices on a day-to-day basis. Through that agile practices, you build some capabilities, and through the capabilities, you touch an agile, like you touch an agile outcome. And if and only if you are able to touch an agile outcome, you generally go to the business outcome. Okay, now actually people ask, what do you mean by business outcome? Can you give me some examples? Okay, this slide is going to tell possibly these are the business outcomes, right? I actually strongly recommend to take a pause for 15 to 20 seconds to just go through this particular slide. Okay, yeah, like in the meantime, I will continue. So this particular slide is going to talk about irrespective of the client, irrespective of the domain, irrespective of the market segment. If you go to any client and then if you ask them, do you want predictability? Do you want innovation? Do you want productivity? Do you want customer satisfaction? No one is going to tell no. All client is going to tell yes. Of course, the weightage points could differ, right, based upon your domain, because if you are working in a BFSI or a healthcare domain, regulatory compliance and the governance mechanism are of a paramount importance. So depending upon the contextual nature of the client, or rather depending upon the domain of the client, the weightage points may actually differ. Fully agreed. But no client is going to tell, I don't want quality, like I don't want improvement in the flow efficiency, I don't want an early ROI. So these are all some of the samples which I have put based on my experience. I have also created a placeholder here in the last box. You can define what makes utmost relevance to you within the constraints. Okay, so these are all some of the business outcomes. Now, how am I going to achieve this particular business outcome? For example, this could be one of the flow which I have taken from lot of references, and we have also tested it on the ground. So generally what we mean is, let me also give an example. You start with your shift lifting practice, like you do TDD, like you do test driven development, you do your behavior driven development, or you do your acceptance test driven development, which is potentially an agile practice level. Now, when I start doing those practices, it is going to give a capability of a robust CI/CD pipeline. Let's say in terms of my Jenkins delivery pipeline, I am going to build a robust CI/CD DevOps delivery pipeline, which has the capability to actually release to the production just by touch of a button. Now the point is like this: whether you use see whether it's a greenfield project versus a brownfield project, or whether you actually go for feature toggles, or you go for canary releases, or you go for dark launches, all these are subjective to the context. All that I'm trying to say is, you cannot touch the business outcome if you don't even touch the agile outcome. For example, you cannot touch the operational value stream when you struggle to build your development value stream. Unless and until I build my development value stream, I cannot support the operational values, the particular value stream through the feeds, right? So before you go to the operational value stream, make your development value stream robust enough so that it is giving some inputs or processes or feeds, whatever as an input to the operational value stream, right? So along the similar line of thought, you start with agile practices, you build your agile capabilities in terms of like your CI/CD pipeline, your shift left approach. See, so all these things. Now, like through this, I can touch my agile outcomes like predictability, productivity, responsiveness, and quality. Responsiveness does not necessarily mean only doing things fast. No, responsiveness also means ability to change the direction when the market needle changes, responding to change over following a plan, right? So from that point of view, those aspects will be encapsulated in something called a agile outcome. If I have a predictable system, if I have a productivity, responsiveness, quality, then possibly I can increase my CSAT score of the client. I can increase the employee engagement of the client. I can increase the, or I can build effectiveness in the go-to-market strategy of the client. So all those are the business outcomes. So this is the way we actually connect the thread, right? So back to this slide on what we touched upon, the business outcome and how are we connecting the thread is been shown here. Now, based on my experience, okay, because experiences differ from person to person, based on my experience, when I have actually done it hands on, we used to create something called outcome based plan. Means what? These are the colors. Say, for example, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. I have taken some of my teams called PDO teams. It is called product driven organization teams along this particular trajectory. Understand that agile transformation is a journey. It is never a destination in it's never a destination in itself. Even in say for example, like no, even if you are implementing safe is not the outcome. Actually delivering client centric business outcome is the outcome. However, safe is used as a framework or a enabler to get it done. So from that concept, we have created some outcome based plan. Say for example, getting predictable, start building predictable teams, reduce the batch size. Means make some attempt to ship the code as much as faster to the production. Break the dependencies, because if there is a dependency, how you can ship the code to the production at a faster rate, and increase the local sorry, increase the local autonomy. Means try to do more of a decentralized decision making. Don't give all the decisions to the central team, and by the time the decisions and the approvals come to you, see, because if an organization is actually struggling to maintain internal agility, forget about them doing global excellence to the clients, right? First you need to have that agile mindset or the agility behavior, then we can talk about adding agile to our clients, right? No, try to see where you can do some decentralized decision making, which comes under increasing the local autonomy. Investing to learn means more of, actually someone talked in the earlier also, the project to the product mindset, more of an experimentation, hypothesis driven approach. You test the MVP, the minimum viable product or the minimum marketable feature, and then you take a decision whether to continue funding or not, which is of a lean startup kind of a model. Okay, so I have formulated this particular trajectory, and this slide we are just mentioning the same points here. Okay, now the question will come, how to get it done? Okay, why to get it done actually begins from here. And what are all the building blocks? Like it's been mentioned over here. And then comes the how part of implementation. Say for example, as far as building a predictable team, you need to form teams, you need to have a building backlog, and you need to have a mechanism to test the software. So these are all the outcomes what we define in our agile maturity assessment sheet, what we have created. And there will be some questions which is going to check on this. Okay, had I formed teams? Form teams does not necessarily mean only physically forming team. It is forming team at a mindset level. And do you have your metrics baseline? Are you able to maintain predictability, like in terms of the say do ratio, which is make and meet a commitment? Are you able to improve the system? For example, if I want to improve the system, then I need to reduce defects, delays, dependencies, impediments, blockers, technical debts, and also the risk. Unless and until you are not handling these 5 or 6 things, you cannot bring in agility, irrespective of any framework you are using. In fact, if you don't solve this problem and try to implement a framework, implementing framework is going to become one more headache, or rather one more pain point to solve. So understand the system, have a grip on the defects, delays, dependencies, impediments or blockers, and your technical debts and the program level risk, and then you can look into the touch point of reference from the framework. That is why we are saying an agile transformation journey is actually speaking independent of the framework used. And then you maintain a consistent throughput and maintain visibility on the backlog. When I say throughput, number of features delivered per month, or rather number of sub epic delivered per 6 months, something like that. If I go to level 2, we are now going to talk about reducing the batch size. These are all the outcomes which we do inside that particular level 2 outcome based plan. See, I have given a sample outcome. It is not that we copy paste this. Depending upon your contextual need, you try to co-create an outcome. Don't create an outcome and then give it to someone. The moment you co-create it, you are also enabling and empowering the teams. You are also creating a buy-in from them so that the resistance will be less. Generally people say, no, generally people say leadership is actually resisting, client is resisting. Obviously yes, because something has not been co-created together with them. So okay, so here I have put the high level view, and if you go to level 3, we are now going to talk about breaking that dependency. It could be like building a CI/CD pipeline, or cloud based deployment architecture model, or some kind of a microservices enabled deployment, so that with some minimal changes or customization I can deploy the code to the production with a minimal turnaround time. So here we are going to talk about how we can break the dependencies. Now see, here I'm not talking anything related to Scrum, Kanban, Safe, any of the framework. You choose the framework. Whatever makes utmost relevance to you within your constraints, go ahead and then pick it up. Or rather, in my future slides, I will show my own framework. But then these are all fundamental principles or concepts which is framework agnostic. Okay, that's what I was trying to tell. And then I'll go to the level 4 maturity, which is going to talk on team based funding model, decentralized decision making, all those aspects. Level 5 is a lean startup kind of a model, wherein, for example, okay, even I can tell this, even your funding your value stream can also be taken as a investing to learn, right? Because I am trying to move from a cost center based budgeting model to a value stream based budgeting model, if and only if my epic statement hypothesis makes a relevance. So you do some kind of an R&D or a pivot and continue kind of a thing based on the outcome. Okay, so this is something which I have taken from the leading agile consulting group. They have something called this particular compass, which is going to tell emerging market and converging market in the y-axis, predictability and adaptability on the x-axis, and then now you are trying to see where am I currently, in which particular quadrant am I, and where do I need to navigate. If you take any company for that matter, you can position it in one of these four quadrants: predictability, adaptability on the x-axis, emerging market, converging market on the y-axis. If you take a Google, probably it is in the emerging, like this particular Google or highly tech companies or more of an innovation driven companies will be in the quadrant of a emerging and adaptability, because they are responding to the market, adaptive to the internal organization also, something like that. Okay, which we will see when we go through and complete the slides. Okay, uh, this is kind of a customized agile framework which we have designed. So of course I have taken some of the best practices from Scrum, some Kanban, some Safe, but it is not a copy paste. By the looks of it, you can get a fresh feel. This is something what we have created for one of our client, a kind of a thing. I have removed, of course, much of the elements to maintain the data the data integrity aspects. There are lot more components surmounting it. I have removed all those things and then showing you the crux. So my suggestion is that instead of force fitting a framework like Safe or Nexus or DAD or Spotify, look into the need, look into what kind of capabilities are given by what particular frameworks, and you can plug and play and then pick and choose your own customized framework also. This is something what we have created, so I'm just sharing it here on a high level. Okay, now comes the a game of a balancing between the delivery, transformation, and the continuous improvement. I just try to put my thoughts over here. Delivery is going to take care of your product road mapping and project level release planning. Your transformation pillar is going to take care of your agile transformation roadmap together with your coaching plan. And your continuous improvement is going to take care of your retrospective action items and organization level continuous initiatives towards enterprise agility. So any kind of an activity what you are trying to do can be bucketized into these three pillars. That is what I try to formulate here, and also coaching the coaches. But I think I can come back to know the this coaching the coaches a bit later. I just want to hear from the no, I just want to hear from the audience, and then we can keep going from there. So, any thoughts or any questions to ask? I'm actually willing to take it now itself, might as well, rather than take it at the end, because in the interest of the time. And then I will go to the last slide, and then we can give a coverage. Namrata?
Yeah, hi Balaji. I
Hmm.
see a couple of questions in the chat,
Yeah,
so
please.
maybe I can read them out to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so there's one from Hari Harasudan, and he asks, what are the add-on tasks for an enterprise agile coach?
What? One second. One second. I just want to read the questions here. One minute.
Of course,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
no worries.
What are the add-on tasks for a enterprise agile coach, and
Enterprise
how
agile
different
coach.
it is from a team level agile coach? Okay. See, fundamentally, even a team level agile coaches also needs to be coached, right? For example, team level agile coach can actually probably coach the team, the product owner, and the scrum master. When you are talking about an enterprise layer agile coach, it is not just about agile. It is also dealing about something called OCM, organization change management models, right? So enterprise agile coach is actually someone who is going to formulate an agile transformation roadmap for the entire organization. But then the context matters a lot, because if you're talking about a service organization, what's the point in actually talking about enterprise agility when you are actually have distinctive clients? I am actually talking about an ecosystem wherein, let's say, you are actually building a product. Probably the team level agile coach will be coaching the scrum masters and the product owner and the team. But if in case you are actually talking about a OKR workshop, like for example, objective and key results, or rather formulating the KRAs and KPIs at a portfolio level, probably a team level coach may not have that particular capability to talk at a portfolio level. So those cases, like probably an enterprise agile coach user persona could be more relevant. I'm not sure I answered the question, but just sharing whatever comes on my mind.
So
Okay, so
Balaji, can I ask question, please? Balaji,
okay, yeah,
this
go
is
ahead.
Sri Nagesh. Yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Balaji, for a really wonderful presentation. My question is, if somebody wanted to become a agile practice head in a big organization, what are 4 5 important things he need to do to set up that agile practice to become agile practice head? What are important things we need to do, Balaji? Thank you.
Okay, see, any role for that matter, no, not only this particular agile practice head, any role for that matter demands certain kind of capabilities and competences, right? So that is why we actually generally used to tell JDs are not prepared for the people. JDs are prepared for that role. JDs are prepared for that particular position. So the best way to plug the gap is understand where am I currently in terms of the capabilities, the skills, the qualifiers, and then understand what are all the capabilities needed for the head of the agile practice, and then probably take some measures to plug the gap. Now, this is the context. Now, to answer your question, typically, if you are talking about an agile practice head, one of the KRA or the KPA is what is the revenue margin generated by that particular agile transformation office across the verticals, because an agile transformation office is a horizontal capability which is going to cut across multiple verticals or clients. So one of the KRA or the KPI could be what is the revenue or the profit or the whatever the financial term we like to use. What is the revenue margin brought in by that practice to that entire organization, cutting across multiple verticals or the clients? Point number one. Point number two, what is the agile adoption percentage of that organization, and where it was last year and where am I currently? And apart from your delivery, are you matured enough in terms of augmenting the agile journey through your accelerators, enablers, and some kind of a capability building measures? I think these are all the KRAs or the KPIs of an agile practice head. So definitely for an agile practice head, if you know agile transformation, maybe it is 60-70 percentage. The other thing could be like, no, in terms of assessing the portfolio level balance sheet, like in terms of your revenue numbers and all those things, and how do you move the needle. Like for example, if the market changes, probably an agile practice head need to come up with a different strategy to actually position. Say for example, can I actually position it in mode 1, mode 2, like we used to call in one of my companies, that we used to call mode 1, mode 2, mode 3 strategy. Mode 1 could be the existing core services. Mode 2 could be the platform and the product engineering. Mode 3 could be the cloud based deployment. No, so cloud based deployment, the deployment models. So having an overarching digital transformation knowledge and business transformation knowledge is also needed for an agile practice head. That's my answer. Okay, so we will go through the
Apologies.
questions, Namrata.
Thank you so much.
Okay, fine.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. There's another question, Balaji. At which point in the transformation journey do you suggest to a customer to take up scaled agile framework instead of using some other scaled framework?
Okay, so see, the point is simple. Morning also, someone is actually talking about what are all the different scalable models in the industry. You see, typically SAFe will be more suitable if you are looking out for a portfolio level alignment also, because no other scalable models in the market as on day is actually talking about portfolio level budgeting. Even if you take your Nexus, or if you take your safe model, okay, sorry, if you take your squad model, your Spotify, or if you take your less framework, all these frameworks do not talk about the vertical alignment in terms right from the portfolio level budgeting all the way down to the user story, right? So if you are looking out for a lean governance model or an adaptive framework, which is also going to give me a prescriptive approach, like know how to handle right from a right from a portfolio level, probably safe can be tried out, which is actually one way to one way to look at it. But my suggestion is, don't go to portfolio safe unless and until you have proved your success or created your evidence of success pattern at an essential safe. First experiment first experiment the essential safe, and then you go to your large solution. If you want, if you have any vendors or suppliers, then you can go to portfolio budgeting. Because if you are actually struggling to do a essential safe itself, what's the point in talking about the lean budgeting and the lean governance models? That may be one perspective to it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that, Balaji. We have another
Mm.
question. Is breaking dependency
Breaking the okay
taking
software code and
taken in
technique.
context of software code and techniques only?
Okay, see, as when we are doing our PI planning, right, which we do our program increment planning, SAFe clearly says that you create a ROM board, right? Okay, which is in terms of the risk, resolved, won't, accepted, mitigated. One more thing is, in the part of as a part of the PI planning, we create our dependency board, which is going to tell across the features, across the teams, what are all the dependencies. So when I say dependency, from a workflow point of view, we are also talking from a process orientation. But from an implementation point of view, I meant the dependencies between the between the modules. Okay, so see basically how you can see. For example, if I have a okay, let me give a real time example. Let's say in one of my project, I need to configure my web service call. Either I can go for a SOAP protocol. I actually import a WSDL file and I write a web service call, or I can make use of a REST API service. So both ways I can do. But let's say the problem is, if I use a REST API, then I need to configure my endpoint URL using using a XAML file. Okay, and this XAML file, XAML file, is actually going to come from a third party vendor or a supplier. So instead of waiting till the time that particular API comes from a vendor or a supplier, is there any other way to simulate it? For example, by writing any kind of an interfaces or stub or drivers or some kind of a markup API to simulate the functionality till the time the actual functionality comes from my vendor. So what are you trying to do? You are trying to prioritize dependencies, which we covered in the level 2, and you are trying to break the dependency. Break the dependency does not mean dissolving the dependency. Minimize the impact or mellow down the impact of that particular dependency. It could be a code dependency, test data dependency, infrastructure dependency. Okay, like I will show the framework once again. At the time we can see. One second,
So,
please.
so
Come
Balaji,
back to,
One more question, please.
yeah, go ahead.
So if you look at the value stream identification, value stream mapping, how many times we need to do, like, the value stream identification mapping during the early stages of agile transformation, or once you are getting maturity levels, what are the inputs to the workshop? What are the process steps in the workshop? What is the outcome expected from the workshop? A couple of three points. When we are doing, what is the role of agile coach in the value stream workshop? With what intention we will get into the workshop, what process we will do, what is the outcome expected from the value stream workshop, and how many days is the right thing to do a workshop like this in a big agile transformation, Balaji?
See, first of all, before I start doing this value stream mapping and all those things to capture the flow efficiency, you need to do a precursor activity to identify the value streams, right? Because typically in a real time situation, a single value stream may even cut across 14 applications or 15 applications. So one need to have done the groundwork ready, or rather the homework ready, to to actually to actually identify a visual mapping or a conceptual mapping, saying what are all the value streams and how many applications it is going to cut across. And then probably once you have identified the value stream, then you can get into the measure of how am I going to optimize the value stream. And I believe, to my knowledge, value stream is a term used in only two frameworks. We have two frameworks. One is SAFe. SAFe uses the term value stream at a portfolio level, and there is one more framework called a Flow, FLOW. And we have a tool called the task top wiz integration. Using the task top wiz integration, you can actually simulate the value stream in the Flow framework. Maybe you can Google it later, or you can watch a YouTube video. And there is one more tool called a target process. Okay, maybe in the interest of the audience, I'll just ping the tool names. Flow tool with task top with with integration. And there is one more tool called the target process. So these tools have the mechanism itself to actually simulate the value streams, and then you can do your lean budget horizontal guardrails using it. So my say is that don't jump into value stream mapping directly unless and until you have clarity on how many operational value streams you are going to do, how many development value streams you are having, and what is the match the following. Like for example, you can just put some simple grid saying these are all the operational value streams, and these operational value streams are tagged to these many development value streams. And then you can see, and then you may need to understand, why am I doing this activity in the first place? Okay, am I going to solve any pain point in the system, or or am I going to do a process improvement because of the VSM, right? So like no, Once I have clarity on those business drivers only, I can answer your question, because your question little bit seems to be very generic nature. We will come back.
Sure.
I will
Thanks.
take a
Thanks,
look into
Balan.
some other. So someone asked me to show this particular framework. This is at a
Hmm.
high level. You have the same concept. See, I have just taken the conceptual entities. You have your user stories, and this is something what we have used to call the SDPA, Software Development Performance Index, which is a different topic altogether. But I just want to put it over there. And typically the middle layer is at feature level or at a program layer. So these are all our own customized meetings what we have included. PI targeting, release targeting means the moment we take a feature, we need to have clarity on, okay, this particular feature need to be positioned in a which particular PI based on the product roadmap priorities, right? Similarly, this particular feature need to be released to the production when? During April release or a September release? Is it a major release or a minor release? So all those kind of discussions will be there. And at a portfolio level, we have our epic and roadmap cleanup activity, and then we have our strategy. Strategy means something like this. Okay, for this Q1, the priority is to fund more in microservices based deployment architecture. Fine. So let's take those particular epics or those particular initiatives, and we can actually focus on those particular priorities. That is called as a strategy here, followed by a decision making box. Now you think practically. Your user story product backlog is going to contain your user stories, your defects, your compliance activity, maintenance activity, incident and support tickets. So your backlog is a heterogeneous one. The same concept I am now elevating to the portfolio level. In my portfolio backlog, I have some run and protect initiatives, lights on projects, some kind of a technical refresh initiatives. So even my portfolio backlog is also going to contain a mix of heterogeneous entities. The only difference is your team level may contain user stories, whereas your portfolio backlog is actually going to contain initiatives. Those funded initiatives, once it is approved, it's going to become a part of my product road mapping, right? That is what SAFE also says. Only those initiatives are epics which has been approved and funded by the lean portfolio management is going to become part of your product road mapping journey. See, so what I was trying to tell is, when you elevate to the conceptual level, right, you can build your own frameworks, you can create your own templates. No need to of course you can take references from so many places, but the ability to create something on your own is of a paramount importance. Okay, so and here I have built something called a continuous improvement initiatives, which I have shown in the next slide, right? The system of a continuous improvement, and we have something called a strategic refactoring workshop. This is more of fixing the systemic issues. What are the systemic issues? That particular team is not supporting us. This particular team is not giving us a test environment. So without you fix the ground level challenges, what's the point in talking about lean portfolio management? It actually doesn't make a relevance. So to continuously keep track on ground level challenges, we have introduced a vertical pillar called strategic refactoring workshop across the layers, followed by the metrics of operation review metrics, which is more from a DevOps and operations team. So this is called customized agile framework, and this is something, how do you actually balance your work across the three main pillars. And here, okay, now the question comes, okay, what are all the possible way to coach the coaches? Okay, so okay, so one way is that, see, through a formal channel, organization also need to have some kind of a training program, some kind of an orientation program to actually typically coach the coach. But you can build your own community of practices. You can come up with our coach, like your coaches sync up connect. Because for, let's say, for when I was working as a enterprise agile coach, weekly once we used to have a coaches sync up meeting. All the coaches in that particular portfolio, we used to have a sync up connect for 30 minutes, and then we share our best practices. Okay. And one more thing is, whatever action items that the coaches need to improve, why don't you create it, convert it into a user story, and then you assign it to the coaches also. And one more thing, whatever I have shown over here, right here, one second, getting predictable, reducing the batch size, break the dependency, go for a try to have some decentralized decision making, investing to learn. It is not only for the delivery team, it is not only for the transformation team, it is also for the agile coaches. Coaches need to become predictable. See, okay, say for example, simple example, if I'm actually coaching the coach, and then if I'm actually giving some actionable user stories to my coaches, and if my coaches violate the WIP limits, then what is the point in preaching someone which I don't follow it in the first place? And people can easily find it out, because that particular energy resonates there. So applying the WIP limit and all this, identifying the ways, it is not only for the PTO teams, it is equally valid for the coaching team. The only difference is the content. The content changes. There the coaching is done at a ground level product experimentation or project experimentation. Here it is more on the people behavior mindset. Okay, coaching a diversified group. Okay, so let me come back to the. I'll stop sharing for now. I'll just come back to the parent screen. Okay, so can we take a further questions, Namrata?
Yeah, I think
So,
we
so
have only
Balaji,
a
just one last
couple of
important
minutes.
question from, so sorry, excuse me, sorry. So Balaji, if you look at the product roadmap, what is the role of agile coach in understanding the product roadmap? Because product roadmaps are 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, something like that. How many touch points agile coach will have in the product roadmap discussions, and what is the internalization of product roadmap by the agile coach Balaji? How effectively he's going to contribute in developing product roadmap, Balaji?
See, my say is Agile coach need not work to effectively contribute in building a product roadmap. Agile coach role is to coach the product owner to do that work, or to coach the product management group to do it. See, now the point is a simple. Uh, no, forget about the framework. Even from an agile onion planning model, one need to be clear on the quarterly priorities, right? So, and this particular behavior has nothing to do with agile. Even in a traditional waterfall model, we need to be very clear on, hey, what am I supposed to do for the next 3 to 4 months? Only difference is, in an agile driven engagement, we are not maintaining bulky requirements. It has been translated into user stories. Point number one. Point number two, in a traditional waterfall model, requirements are not going to change by and large. Whereas in an agile driven engagement, the churn rate is more. So the responsibility of the agile coach is to coach the product owner or the head of the product management group to be in sync with the market relevance and continuously create visibility on the product backlog. When I say product backlog, need not necessarily mean team level product backlog. It is portfolio backlog, which contains epic and sub epic, and a feature backlog, or like a program level backlog, followed by the team level backlog. Okay, so I like to go to some other questions, Sri Nagesh. Maybe we can have an offline connect also. Okay. Let me take the questions, as the question seems to be bit interesting. Um, what are all some of the key parameters that coach assess the team or organization, then moves on to next assignment? See, what you assess, fundamentally comes from what you want the team to achieve, right? So you may need to go back to them, and then see, fundamentally you will be assessing on the product backlog visibility, the effectiveness of the process mechanism, technical agility from a team level front, and how are you able to engage your stakeholders or your internal customers or clients. Probably these could be 3 or 4 high level areas. Whereas If you're taking SAFe as the framework, SAFe itself gives you the parameters or dimensions. So there you no need to go and do any kind of a experimentation. So SAFe clearly says these are the 7 dimensions of the competencies. So you can directly know, like you can directly assess it. So to just to cut a long story short on the question what Tejas has been asked, what are the key parameters? Like you need to be cognizant enough about why am I doing or what am I doing. There lies the answers to the parameters. Okay, my view about the question on agile head role should be more agile compared to other agile guys. It's not a manager or a director role in my view. See, the point is simple. These agile director, agile head role, all these are verbose English lines. My say is look into the KRAs and KPIs of what that person is expected to perform on the ground field. Okay, these are because the English sentence or statement can be interpreted by n number of ways. So the point is simple. Whenever you are joining any company or any organization for that matter, you need to do only two things. Set up 30 minutes discussion time with your reporting manager. Try to understand what are you supposed to do in that context. Then same thing, try to set up a 30 minutes call with your client manager, and then try to understand what are you really supposed to do in that particular context. I think that makes life more easy rather than doing analysis and paralysis on x versus y versus z and all. Okay, that is my view to it. How to carry out the OKR workshop? Okay, so you need to define your quarterly priorities, right? Like how, like for example, what is your success criteria for the quarter? And before you jump into OKR, you need to define the boundary of the OKR. Is it a OKR workshop at a product line level, or at a product group level, or at a team level? That particular boundary need to be set. See, like you can think like in this angle, your PI planning meeting, right? Your PI objective is also a OKR, but it is at a team level from an execution point of view. But whenever you are defining a OKR, define the boundary of the OKR and define the vision statement. Then actually look into what are all the indicators based on which I can define my success. Those indicators should be pointers for you to tell your KRAs and the KPIs. Okay, value stream mapping in complex moves domain. Okay, I am not sure whether it's a question or a sentence. Okay, when we can conclude agile transformation is over and agile coaches can be relieved from it. See, we can actually conclude an agile transformation based on what is the definition of success of that transformation. In actually my case, what I showcased there, right? If a team consistently able to obtain level 2 maturity, and if they are able to sustain there for 2 program increments, probably I can tell that as a success. So the point is simple. Success is something which need to touch the ground level realities, not something floating in the air. So how do you measure success? Based on multiple parameters. One could be the happiness index, and we have some ways to quantify the happiness index. And one way is to, like, see, that's the same parameters, right? The predictability, the productivity, compression in the lead time and the cycle time, followed by the quality. Even those parameters can be taken as attributes of a success criteria of your transformation. So when you need to conclude depends upon what is your goal that you set in the first place, right? So you stop your journey when you reach a place. Now the question is when to stop the journey. My question back to you is, like, now what was your goal in the first place? If you have clarity on the goal, believe me, you will have clarity on the conclusion. Many people struggle because goal is not very clear. Okay, can you elaborate on how participatory budgeting is carried out in scaled agile framework? See, typically speaking, participatory budgeting is one way of a dynamic budgeting. Yes, fully agreed. SAFe calls it as a participatory budgeting. So the concept says like this: instead of funding more of the instead of funding few of the epics with a more money, why don't you fund more epics with a lesser money? Try to experiment it on the play field, then take a course correction decision whether to continue funding or not. So it is like, you are actually going to your financial consultant, and your financial consultant says, for this particular year, let us do financial planning, sir. You can actually put your money in these particular shares. Okay, at that time the financial consultant is actually saying, in these shares probably you can invest 5k 10k now, depending upon whether the whether the projections in the market it turns out to be good, we can take a decision later whether to continue further funding or not. Here the financial consultant is the safe coach. That particular funds where you put your money are the, no, are the epics, are the initiatives which is getting funded. But all these things makes relevance when you are building a product, not that much from a project point of view, right? Because project is a temporary endeavor. That is why much of the companies are now talking about productized IT, like no moving from project to product. That is the concept in the participatory budgeting. And as I mentioned, we do have a tool called the target process. You can try to simulate it using the target process. Enterprise agile coach is like enterprise architect or program manager. No, for example, see, these roles altogether differ, right? Because enterprise architect is more of a technical leadership role. So absolutely no. Enterprise agile coach is more of a coach at an organization level, whereas enterprise architect is more of a technical leadership role. So like I can tell it as a no.
Thank
Okay,
you,
I'll take a
Balaji.
pause here. Of course, the session had some different dimensions. Like it went in a different direction, but still,
Yeah,
as long as it adds value, it's okay.
thank you, Balaji. And I think we have exceeded 5 minutes of our session, but that I hope that helped gave a good insight to the participants. So with this, we come to the end of this particular session. Thank you very much on behalf of the Agile Network India community.
Okay, thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Cheers.
Thank you, Balaji, and thank you, Namrata, for facilitating this particular.